Hello friends, so we're going to do something a little different today. I'm going to take you along with me on a bookish day in my life. So fun stuff. This week my family got hit by a stomach bug. I'm fully better now, thankfully, but my daughter got hit, my husband got hit, and so I've been taking care of everyone and not having a great time. And so luckily today I'm able to get out of the house. My mom is taking care of June, my daughter, so I am able to get out of the house, which is much needed because I feel like I was gonna lose my mind. I just needed a breather, need some time to get out, read my book. So I am getting out of the house today for a couple hours, and I thought it would be fun to take you along with me on just some bookish activities. So I am downtown. You can see a little bit of a view behind me in the car. I'm going to read my book and maybe do some book shopping, check out some local spots, probably get some tea and some lunch as well at my favorite tea shop. Just enjoy some relaxing time while I have it. Just take you along with me. So I thought I'd talk really quickly about my current read, and sorry if it's backwards, I don't know, but I'm sure you recognize it. So I'm currently reading The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. No, it is not on my June TBR, and you will learn that I have diverged from my June TBR a little bit. I've been in a big thriller and romance mood, and I didn't have a lot of those on my TBR. So here we are. This book's been calling out to me. Everyone on BookTube has been loving it, and I've been feeling major FOMO, so I had to check it out. I'm almost 100 pages in, so pretty early on, but enjoying it so far and looking forward to reading more. So if you are not aware, this is a contemporary romance but with a magical realism time travel element. This one is about Clementine, who has lost her aunt, who is basically her best friend, but she inherits her apartment in New York City. Her aunt always told her that this apartment was magical, but Clementine just thought it was because like her aunt is magical and not like literally that it's magical. But one day she goes in her apartment after moving in, and she encounters this man that she has never met before. She's freaking out, but she quickly realizes that she has gone back in time, 7 years specifically, and he is living there in, I think, 2016 or something like that. And back in that time, her aunt is still alive, and so she considers not staying because it's freaking her out, and she is hoping to go out the door and come back in, and that it's just going to be her normal present day apartment. But she decides to stick around because it gives her another chance to live in the same timeline as her aunt. And she's also kind of interested or intrigued by this man named, I don't know how to pronounce his name, it's spelled I-W-A-N, Ewan, I don't know. He is a southern man. He's a chef. He's very spontaneous and creative and really easy to talk to, listens really well. That's pretty much all I've read so far. But it has great food descriptions with him being a chef. It has a lot of travel references already. She and her aunt used to travel like every summer. And she's also a publicist, so she's in kind of the book world, and there's some stuff with her friends who she works with. So that's fun, and it's got like nostalgic 90s or more like 2000s maybe rom-com vibes. Think like 13 Going on 30, really any movie set in New York City, it kind of feels like that. Loving it so far and excited to read more. And then I'm also listening to Listen for the Lie. This is a thriller. It's a really good audiobook because it has like a podcast element. So it's about this girl named Lucy who has been accused of murdering her best friend Savvy. She has no memory of what happened, but everyone in her town, her small town in Texas, assumes that she has killed her best friend, and no one knows what really happened, but she just assumes that's the case. But there is this true crime podcast. Ben is he's the podcaster. He's looking into it in his current season, and he's interviewing all these people from her town and eventually interviewing her just to kind of uncover what happened. So I would definitely listen to this on audiobook because it feels like a real podcast. It's got like music, great audiobook narrators, different southern accents, and really entertaining so far. It's not really like a fast-paced, on the edge of your seat kind of thriller, but it is definitely intriguing. It's also very funny. The main character does not take herself very seriously. It's really enjoyable. It's an easy listen, and I'm about halfway through that. I'll probably listen to that while I'm shopping around and stuff, and then I'll be reading my book along the way. So I will check in with you later. done some things, as you've seen in the footage. I trekked up a big hill in the heat, and I'm very out of breath now, back in my car, getting some air conditioning, and I thought I would update you on the couple of books that I just picked up. So as you can see in my footage, I went to 2 different shops. The first one was just a local independent bookstore, more like new books and regional local books, not really used, but they did have a blind date with a book shelf, which was the main reason I went there, because someone had told me about it and I wanted to try it out. So I got one of those, and I'm going to open it here and let you know what book I picked up. And I also found another one there. And then I went to another locally owned used bookstore. This one is a lot more kind of just random books, vintage, and then all sorts of used nonfiction, fiction, everything you can imagine. So had fun checking some books out at both of those places. And then I went to my favorite tea spot and I got some boba tea and avocado toast and a little gluten-free cookie. And I was just chilling. As you could see, it was very dark in there, so the footage from that might be not the best quality, but it's very relaxing because you can just like sit on these like floor cushions. I love it. Low lighting, great smells, calming music, and it's all gluten-free and mostly vegan, which is great because that's my diet pretty much. So without further ado, I'm gonna open this blind date with a book. So I'm gonna read what it says. I have no idea what this is. I had a couple that I was interested in, but this one won out. I could have just flipped a coin and picked one of those, but also this one was cheapest, so that's always gonna win. Okay, so it says, vivid, biting, comic, brooding, eccentric, delicious, gothic. Misfit, misunderstood heroine in Scottish manner. Darkly hilarious and exquisitely written. Rediscovered 90s gem. One of the best, least known novels of the 20th century. So I don't read a lot of older books, and I figured I would not have read this one for sure because it's written in the 90s. And I like Scotland, I like gothic, eccentric, humorous, dark things, so it sounds interesting. So let's check it out. Okay, Caledonia by Elspeth Barker. Never heard of it. It does have an introduction by Maggie O'Farrell, who wrote Hamnet and The Marriage Portrait. So yeah, I have never heard of this. It's nice and small though, and it's got the cool, like, I don't know what you call it, but you can probably see what those edges are. Let me know if you've heard of this before, because yeah, never heard of it. So let's see what year it was written in. It was written in 1991, the year before I was born. So that's pretty far back. And okay, so it says, a darkly humorous modern classic about a doomed adolescent girl, featuring a new introduction by Maggie O'Farrell. Janet was found oddly attired in her mother's black lace evening dress, twisted and slumped in bloody murderous death. So begins O Caledonia. Oh, it's called O Caledonia. Whoops. I didn't see the O. Okay, it's called O Caledonia. So begins O Caledonia, with the body of 16-year-old Janet discovered in her Scottish Highlands home. There is no shortage of suspects in the murder of the unlovely and unloved Janet. Despite this opening scene, O Caledonia is not a whodunit, but an account of our ill-fated young heroine's life, from birth to early death, about sibling bonds and betrayals, isolation and loneliness, the miseries of adolescence, and the saving grace of books. And it has some more stuff. So that sounds pretty interesting, and it is under 200 pages. So even if I don't love it, it's not like I'm going to be spending a whole lot of time on it. So here you go. Blind date with a book I'd never heard of. It sounds pretty interesting, and it's good to kind of branch out and especially read books that are not published in the last like 2 to 3 years. So I call that a win, and I will hopefully try to read this soon. It sounds like maybe a good fall book, like a darker vibes. So hopefully I can read this and update y'all on if I like it or not. Okay, then on my way out, I saw a shelf or a rack that had ARCs, so advanced reader copies, and you're not allowed to sell those, so they just had them on a shelf, and they said if it doesn't have a barcode, you can take it for free. So I looked through them, and this was the only one I had heard of, and I really like this cover. So it's called Same as It Ever Was by Claire Lombardo. I have never read anything by this author, but I've heard of her, and I think I saw someone post that they really like this book. It actually comes out like in a week, I think, so it's not even released yet. And I think it's just like literary fiction. Seems like it's about one woman and just kind of going through her whole life and everything that happens from her childhood, early years, to becoming a mother and a wife, and just kind of dealing with family and all of that. So it was free. Sounds interesting, and gotta love that. So that was the first store. And then the used bookstore that I went to, I found two different books at. The first one I found, I have mentioned before, I think, because I picked up another book by this author, and this book that I found by this author, a lot of people have said is really good. So I finally own it now. And that is A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. So I already have The Lincoln Highway. I haven't read it yet, but I am interested in his writing. It's a historical book. It's set in 1922, or at least it starts in 1922. And I think it's about a man who is sentenced to house arrest, and he's gets put in this hotel in an area of Moscow. And he's just stuck there for a while during a very tumultuous time in Russian history. And he gets to know some of the other people who are there, but then this young girl is in danger, and he's basically the one who can help. I definitely want to read this one. I've heard a lot of very good things and was excited to find it at the used bookstore. And this one is not something I would normally pick up, but it caught my eye, the cover, and it sounds really kind of funny and just like a good like coffee table book maybe, but I'll probably look through it because it looks interesting. So this is Goblin Mode and it says underneath, how to get cozy, embrace imperfection, and thrive in the muck. So the funny thing about this is my husband loves goblins. He has a YouTube page and it's called Elder Goblin Games. He's all into that kind of stuff, but he also refers to me and our daughter as a goblin. So I thought it was very fitting to have in our family home. And again, I like this cover, very like whimsical, earthy, and I don't know, sometimes I feel like a goblin, you know, like a little bit of a hot mess, a little bit chaotic. The first line of this says, if you picked up this book, you're probably interested in getting in touch with your goblin nature, even if you're not yet sure what that means, which I'm like, yeah, that seems fair. And then there's a part here that says, dirty, sticky weirdos are just as deserving of love as anyone else. So I don't know. It might be ridiculous. It might not be anything that I like at all, but it could be great. You never know. So there you have it. 4 books, 1 for free. Oh, there's people walking by. Please don't look. Like I said, 4 books. 1 I picked up for free. 1 was the blind date with the book, and then 2 thrifted that I picked out. And I just was reading a little bit of The 7-Year Slip at the tea place, and I've been listening to my audiobook throughout the day. I just hit a pretty big reveal in the audiobook, and so it's about to get real, and honestly didn't get very far in The 7-Year Slip. I was kind of distracted at the tea place. There were people talking about books and I was listening to them. So I decided to come to my car, and I might read a little bit more in the silence of my car. And then I'm probably gonna have to head home and get back to mom duties. Anyway, just thought I'd update you on the books I found. I may or may not talk to you again in this video, we'll see, but that is it for now.